with projects in their own right. I believe there's up to 8, which the council's looking at building into our programme going for over the next 3 to 5 years, certainly cycle-wise. And that's why we're presenting this early on this evening, to give you yourselves a sort of a snapshot, if you like, of what we're proposing with this, fantastic programme for the strategy. I repeat, it is quite a resilient strategy. It's quite flexible as well, given the timeline. So there will be ability to sequence different play areas as we need to, although there are some kind of flagship play areas which the report calls for, which might go first, but thereafter there's quite a lot of fine tuning that can be done, if you like. I don't like the phrase on the hoof, but as and when, in an agile way, should we say, as we go through this. And I think that's it for now, other than to say that what we're seeking to do with this, still back to the vision, but this strategy will deliver it, is to enable each play area to be distinctly unique in its own right, blended into the wider town environments as such, but will be a memorable experience for each individual coming, whether they're young or elderly or whoever would like to visit from beyond the town as well, to leave a lasting positive impression for the play area. So what we're seeking, I think, but in the strategy, which doesn't necessarily come out through the report, is to deliver a sort of an area whereby people will come and say, yeah, I definitely recall going to a Biggleswade play area in such and such specific area, rather than just a sort of generic play area as such. So I'll leave it at that, I think, please.
Karim, could I just ask you to say a few words on how you've connected to members in regard to this iteration of how it's kind of been developed? And I also wanted to underline Frank's help in trying to develop this. Can we just make sure that we've got that member link going? Yeah.
Certainly, thank you. So we have been engaging with our chair of the our chairperson of the PLOS committee, and also with a few other individuals on this program as we were taking this work forward, including via the SharePoint Access portal in an earlier, should we say, pre-Christmas kind of phase of work on this. You'll note I haven't actually touched yet on the sort of timelines for all of this. Proposed activity, apologies. And that's, I mean, I can bring that out now at this stage if you like, in terms of which way we're seeking to go in terms of financing, given that this is a very large, relatively very large request. Is that okay? Thank you. I might bring in a colleague actually to talk to my colleague Wilma here to talk about exactly on sort of the timeline for the financing. But my understanding is that were we to go, we're seeking a public works loan board loan. This would take, in the order for this particular project, and it may be that members will decide that we would like to package this up with several other projects in one go. The timelines that would be required would be a 10-week, that's 10-week public consultation an 8-week, sorry, let me get this right because this is Korea. I have the document here, but in fact, I'll bring in Wilma. It might be easier at this stage. Apologies. Yeah, thanks.
Thank you, Karen. The 10-week is that when the decision is made by NAC, when NAC makes an application to the Department of Levelling Up and Housing Committees and final application to PLB. But preceding those 10 weeks, council would have to do a public consultation. And if we're borrowing an amount of over 100,000, then the public consultation must take a minimum of at least 1 month. And this consultation have certain fine detail criteria which we need to go through. And once we agree to go in that route, I will make that available for everybody to view and see. And the intricacies of the things that we are also supposed to use for that. We also have to prove to them that financially we'll be in a place that we can also service the loan. So they want to see our reserves. If we're going to apply for a loan, they want to see what kind of reserve do you have as a kind of collateral guarantee, if I'm allowed to use that word. But they will be looking for that. They would like to look at our cash flow and the various things. And they also like the resolution to go for a loan to be documented in our minutes in a meeting. because that will also be one of the backup papers. So if council decides to go for a loan, there's a wording that one of you would have to use in your proposal for that, and then we have to document that, but we have to submit that with the full minutes, not just an extract of that. So there's a lot of processes that give or take.
We would expect that to be with the
Yes.
precept setting meeting. We will make the decision as a council then how we finance our capital projects that we want to take forward. So the minutes would be available within a few days of that meeting. So we could be getting underway by the end of this month.
And also they want us to put it on in the public consultation. They don't just want us to do it in one way. There are various ways they want us to do it.
I'm sorry, they want what?
In the public consultation, it has to be clear, and the public responses also have to be clear. It has to be attached in our application when we do apply for the PWLB loan.
I'm sorry, I'm not following that.
Sorry, I said that quickly. The public consultation that we would embark on to grant, to get the public support for the loan,
Yes.
we need to document it as a backup document when we do apply to PWLB.
Yes. Well, because some of us have been through this process before.
I mean, I'm going to try and simplify this. I mean,
Please.
it's not uncommon, almost similar to some of the stuff we've been doing on the neighbourhood plan. And when our residents vocalise whether or not they're in support of our aspirations, we need to capture that information, and we need to ensure that we then send it on to government departments. It's as simple and straightforward as that.
So it's a consultation statement in the
Correct.
same way that we've done it for the neighbourhood plan, which will be coming to council at the next meeting.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we don't really need to get involved too much in the finance tonight, because F&GP will make the recommendations to the precept meeting about that. So comments please about the plan. Did you wish to say anything, Councillor Foster?
I'd like to thank the officers for all the work that they put into it, particularly the expertise of our manager, Jonathan, because he has the background expertise in terms of all the equipment, the finance information which we needed to make the plans and all the rest of it. There's a lot of work that's gone into it, but it is purely just a start. And we need to have this basic outline stuff before we can move on. And no doubt, as we go through the F&GP meeting, and then the detail that's going to be required as part of the PLOS and the members' input on the actual equipment used and all the rest of it. But without the information we had here, we wouldn't have been able to move on. So I'd like to say thank you for the work you put in on this, and I look forward to progressing this as we go as soon as possible. Thank you.
You were indicating, Councillor Page.
I think you sort of said what I was going to say, actually, Chairman. So, you know, a lot of this will obviously progress to PLOS and F&GP. I guess just for this evening, what we're being asked to do is to endorse what's in front of us as a way forward. So, correct me if I'm wrong, but we're looking at the, you know, we're accepting more or less the region of about £500,000 worth of costs here. We know that the direction of travel is towards a public works loan, although that will come out of F&GP in more detail. And I guess what we're also indicating is for the precept set, for the sake of setting the precept, assuming we do go ahead with a kind of public works loan, you know, within year one, that's going to be just over £100,000, which we'll need to pay the interest on. Am I right in thinking that that's what we're being asked to endorse and give the nod to, so that F&GP and PLOS can crack on with what is a very detailed and potentially, you know, very long programme of work? I echo what Councillor Foster says, by the way. It's always very tricky to get some of these things off the ground, and I think this is good.
Thank you. Councillor Woodhead.
Thank you. Just a couple of quick broader points, actually. Firstly, I think this is a very welcome document, and it's probably overdue in terms of looking at the play areas in the town. I think that's very welcome. I just wondered, this may be more an issue for PLOS, but I wanted to catch it while all the officers were here, what input you've had from the community in terms of what the play areas might look like and the kind of equipment, because certainly from the pictures and the images that are in there, it could be quite paternalistic in the sense of this is what you're going to have, rather than actually what, you know, local residents might want, or particular areas with, you know, housing that have got younger kids near there, or that kind of thing. And I just wondered if perhaps a user group or user panel or something could be considered as part of that process going forward. The other point I had in the papers here, there are graphics for, I think, virtually all of the play areas, but for some reason the Fairfield Road one seems to have dropped off, and I couldn't see it in there. So I'd just be interested to know what the ideas were for that, because I couldn't find it. And yeah, I think otherwise it's they're really the two main points: the user group, and then what's happened to Fairfield, because it pops in and out of the document as well, the text document as well as the picture document. So, but otherwise, no, I think it's well overdue.
Councillor Strawn and then Councillor Knight.
Thank you, Mayor. I agree with Councillor Woodhead in terms, I think we should be looking at a bit of consultation on the actual equipment and what the areas themselves. I think it is a very welcome document. I'm delighted to see it. It's actually quite exciting, not that I shall be using any of the equipment myself. But I have got a couple of questions, because some of the figures in the presentation and the layout have me a little bit confused, and it may be I'm being slightly obtuse, but if we go to page 16 at the very top, you've got years 1, it says Franklin's and +1 play area, year 2 Kyneton's +1 play area, but lower down in the précis of what's going to happen, Kyneton's and Franklin's are in the same year. And indeed, if you look at the schedules that are provided of the figures, Kyneton's and Franklin's are in the same year. So there is something that needs a little bit of fine tuning, may I respectfully say there. The other part that caused me some confusion is we've got 2 schedules which seem to mimic each other up to a point, but and again, I'm a little bit confused over there. But in general terms, I think it's a great document, a great way to get started. Now we've got to look at the financing in a different arena than today.
Councillor Knight.
Thank you. So I think Councillor Fage made a proposal, so I'd like to second it, that we endorse the sort of financial proposals in here and the general approach. I think there is quite a lot of detail to look at PLOS, and I look forward to that. I welcome the report. So, for example, understanding the demand and the need for these play areas is important, the demographic in the areas, just to make sure that we are investing in the right places. But also recognising the play areas are a small part of the recreation spaces, and understanding the plans for the recreation spaces as a whole, particularly the larger ones, where we need to consider landscaping, benches, other facilities we may provide other than just play equipment. And I think that needs to be part of the strategic plan as well. I think this is good, and I think that's all detail we can follow up at the next PLOS meeting.
Okay. Was there anything you'd like to say, Mr. Woolley?
Jonathan?
Is there anything you'd like to say about the report?
Yeah, I'd just like to say we've done the best we could with what we had available. We probably need to go a little bit further and have something done on like CADs or something like that, which is technology we haven't got yet. But that's what to get the better plans, that was what we need to do. So the overall vision is, yeah.
I think councillors are saying that the overall vision is welcomed, and that the proposal is that the finance we're prepared to take forward as a Public Works Loan Board loan. But there's a lot of detail to sort out, so you and Karim can continue to work with PLOS to take forward the detail and the sequencing of this. Yes. Sorry, I've got 2 officers indicating. Are there any councillors wishing to speak? Can I ask Councillor Mark Foster?
I welcome the report. I think it's a good report, and there's clearly some work to do on it, but I think overall it's a good strategy. I think we will build on that with the two other committees. As a sort of parent and grandparent of young kids, I'm keen to understand what this equipment is going to look like, and that it joins up, so that and I'm sure we'll deal with that as part of the strategy itself. But keen to understand that we've got equipment that will not just be for toddlers, but will be for 7, 8, 10-year-olds. And also that we're very clear that we've got accessible equipment as well within our strategy, because I'm very clear that we need to have something like that. I'm sure we'll be going into more detail on that, but we need to be making sure that that is the case, and that it's available for, there's certainly equipment available for all children. And I take Councillor Strawn's point. I mean, you mentioned, I think, about older people coming and visiting facilities. Clearly not going to be using the play equipment directly, although the gym equipment that we're looking to use clearly will be beneficial. So keen to see what that looks like. One of the things that is referenced within the document is the SharePoint. Now, if you're a member of the public reading our documentation, it doesn't really make any sense. I think I'm not quite sure how we can get that information available to the public, but very much about the transparency and trying to make sure that the information that we're able to see is somehow accessible to the public, unless it's secret. And I don't think it is secret. I think it's just about making sure that we've got some mechanism so that members of the public can see what we're considering. I think that would be really helpful, because I know that the SharePoint document is very good, but it's the graphics are good, and it gives us an indication of what's going forward. So I think probably said enough, but good so far, and the other committees will actually make a difference and take it further forward. Thank you.
Okay.
So, Madam Mayor doesn't mind, is it possible we'll answer Councillor Strawn's questions in just a couple of minutes?
Yeah, okay, go on.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Sorry. Councillor Strong has about the user groups. Has there been any intelligence in finding out if the various users, the various playgrounds meet the user requirements? One of the reasons why we have been very cautious in not doing that yet is we don't want to start talking to the public about things that councillors have not yet agreed to. So if we start that intelligence now and then we come here and you say no, then there's be a disjoint, if I'm right, isn't it?
So it's the timing.
It's the timing. It's in there. And also somebody talked about sorry, I've forgotten the person who raised this about the landscaping and all that. Councillor Foster has actually, sorry, it's my apologies. Councillor Foster has actually given us a vision on that line of thought and what needs to be done. So the diesel reports, which you haven't been given, covers that as well, and certain proposals in there that addresses that. In terms of inclusion and accessibility, it does. In terms of the older people who may like to use these play areas, there will be other facilities where maybe if another person take a grandchild there, the grandchild may be playing there, but there will be benches or things that would make the whole experience, not just for the child, but the whole family journey to a playground in Biggleswade will be unique and unanimous to Biggleswade, being in line with the corporate aspirations which I've read. So that is how this report has been developed. Sorry.
Can you comment, please, on the financial question that Councillor Strawn made?
Yes, to
The speaker is there.
Yep.
Sorry. Okay. Again, the reason why we have two pages, one looks like the pages of the other, is because on one page we need this per year. That's really to do this work. But also, I'm probably going to provide that all these applications based on the so on one and then on the second, on the first thing, registrations on it. If we don't go away, there's something that then written down in the year 1 to 5. This is where you see uploaded videos.
I think
we're okay, Wilma, I think.
I think we've got too much detail in the report in some ways.
Sorry.
I mean, trying to be clear-sighted about what we're deciding tonight. We're deciding, I think, in principle that we want to go ahead. We're accepting the £500,000 plus figure to go into a Public Works Loan Board loan. We're accepting, I think, when it comes to F&GP, that figure there of 122,000 for year one is going to be the amount of drawdown in year one, and therefore PLOS will decide the detail of how that 122,000 is going to be spent. And taking on board the comments about a user group of some kind, perhaps like CBC had for the skate park, particularly with that range of children that Councillor Foster referred to, that are the sort of 8-year-olds to 12-year-olds who aren't normally catered for in our recreation areas at the moment. So I think we need to keep this at a fairly high level and not get bogged down in the detail. The detail needs to be there to back up. It's crucial that we've got the right figures to work on, but we can get too bogged down in the detail.
I'm going to limit my comments to 30 seconds.
Go on then.
Pleased with that. So
Sorry.
I'll get used to that. I think as Frank was saying, I think there's been an enormous amount of hard work from officers and this has been supported by members giving us some kind of direction of travel. So there's been some really hard work here. I don't use the word very often, but I think this really is transformative. This is a lot different to our current offer, significantly different. This is major pieces of change here. So I'm very, very excited that we're on this journey. And I hope in the next few years, we can really make a massive difference for our residents and the range of people who can use our facilities. So I think this is a great thing and we should be supportive of it. Thank you.
Okay. I think you made a proposal, Councillor Fage, about the financial side of it. So I think we're saying we're accepting the £500,000. We're saying that it will be 122,000 drawdown in year one, which is important because of the impact on the revenue budget, which we'll look at F&GP next week. What was the other thing I was going to say? So that's the financial side, but then the detail will be worked out in conjunction with PLOS and hopefully with a user group of some kind as well. And of course, the community engagement group could be used from the parental point of view. Is that a summary of what we think we're saying? Are we all happy with that? Yeah, okay. I won't take a formal vote, but I think you've got that. So the £500,000 agreed to go to in a Public Works Loan Board loan, 122,000 for year one. If we can get the budget set a fortnight today. All right. Thank you very much. Right. Sorry. All right, I wasn't going to, but go on. All those in favour of what I've just been explaining? Unanimous. Thank you.
I think we should vote on major transformation, which we're undertaking here.
I take this up on the wrist. Thank you. Okay, Councillor Pullinger.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. I'd like to propose that we accept the 4 reports on financial administration as detailed in the agenda.
All those in favour? Thank you very much. So now we're on to planning applications and we've got Coppice single storey rear extension. Any comments, please?
Subject to neighbours. Subject
to neighbours. Are we all happy with that? Right. I'm moving on. 46 Fairfield Road, single storey front extension and double storey rear extension. Any comments?
Subject to neighbours.
Subject to neighbours again. Harrison House, Sheep Walk, erection of storage unit with facilities. Any comments? Councillor Alban.
Thank you. Yeah, I was looking at one of the officers' reports on this. It's to do with highways access onto Langford Road. So it really depends on whether this is a change in the business that's carried out on that site. And if it is a change, then the potential is to increase the traffic along that track. And if that is the case, then access from that onto the Langford Road is something that needs to be looked at. So I've got no problem with the application itself, but I wonder if we could send CVC our concerns about the potential impact on that access on Langford Road, because it would, if traffic is increased there, yeah, there's potential danger there, and visibility displays would need to be put in, and all those good things. It is a bridle way, yes.
Okay. Anything else on that one? So it's no objection, but we make the comments about concern about the potential vehicle impact on Langford Road and the fact that it is actually a bridle way. Yeah, are we all happy with that? Thank you. Land north of Dunton Lane, our famous substation. Councillor Fage.
Yes, so I think just to summarise, we've had this has been a very lengthy process to get to where we're at with the substation, obviously originating back to the Housing Infrastructure Fund bid back in, which was initiated in, I think, late 2017 and became public in 2018, successful in 2019. This is the planning application which is required in order to meet the project milestones, if I'm not mistaken. There's certain timelines that they need to meet with Homes England, etc., in order to keep on track and unlock that funding. So we have had a dialogue. We have been able to participate in the consultation process that the project team undertook. But with all that in mind and all the things which, how shall I put it, the conversations which we have tried to have behind the scenes, I have a proposal to make. So Biggleswade Town Council recognises the need to increase the power supply in the town and the strategic importance of successfully delivering a new substation. That said, the substation and the subsequent landscaping are vital for preserving Biggleswade's rural heritage and for meeting the unique aspirations of Biggleswade's new garden village to the east of the town. This application does not provide sufficient detail on exact landscaping. Specifically, there is little visual evidence of the extent to which the large structures will be shielded from sight from passing walkers, drivers, and for nearby properties. This is particularly the case for the new footpath on the east side of the site, which appears completely exposed to views of the substation with no mitigating hedgerow. The Town Council understands that further documentation might be forthcoming. However, for now, comments can only reflect what is included on the planning portal. So as a result, the Town Council objects to this planning application. Perhaps there will be space for dialogue in future, but if we were to put in that objection, hopefully that creates a space around those specific issues. This is a very complex application, a very difficult application, but the fact that these are two sticking points which are so important to the town, I think we have to make them and make them in that way. So I'd like to make that proposal, please.
Do I have a second?
I'll second that, please.
Thank you. Anybody wish to speak? So the proposal is to object because of the landscaping documents that are on the portal at the moment are not sufficient landscaping for what we would wish, and I think for what we thought we'd agreed with UKPN and National Grid. All those in favour of objecting on those grounds? I think that's unanimous, except for Councillor Bond, of course, who can't predetermine. Okay, thank you very much. Right. Land to the north of Dunton Lane, that's the separate amendment we need. I don't think we need to worry about that, do we? Sorry, Councillor Page.
Should we just capture them together, because it's referencing the gantries there, which are the particularly tall parts of the substation, and if we're making comments around screening and landscaping, I do think it's still relevant. So maybe if we take both of those together, and that's our response.
Okay, so the response is to both D and E, the full application and the electricity board notification. Thank you, colleagues. Playfield Close, number 9. Sorry, Councillor Thomas. Yes, I think we knew that that was going to be the case, but it's just to remind us that we've got to get this in tomorrow, please. Yeah, thank you, Councillor Thomas. Playfield Close, ground floor rear extension. Sorry.
Thanks, Madam Mayor. Just one thing on this particular application. We have invited that consortium to come along on the 25th of January anyway, in terms of representing themselves again. That they'll have a short slot. I know it's a very packed agenda.
Okay.
I don't know if there's a scope there.
Is that the right thing to do? I suppose if we've discussed the planning application, it doesn't matter. I don't know. Councillor Bond, please.
You have taken, this is now in the hands of, Central Beds regarding planning. I think you need to feed everything through the planning officer rather than going back to, you can have a meeting. The fact is, I don't see the benefit of actually bringing them back here.
No. I'm certainly nervous about it. Councillor Fage.
Yeah, I might just say, so I can see why we've done that, because it is an important strategic partnership, but in light of the fact that we have now put in an objection, it's not impossible that something might end up on that agenda, which perhaps some of those documents come onto the planning portal, and there's a further conversation that we need to have as a council about the applicants. So I think maybe something for a few months' time, but I think, as Councillor Bond says, via central beds for now.
Yeah, we mustn't compromise ourselves as a council. So can you get that message back to Nick Vose, please?
Will do, thank you.
Thank you. I'll try again on Playfield Close. Third time of asking, have we got any comments?
Propose no objections, subject to neighbours.
Subject to neighbours, all right, thank you. 146 Home Court Avenue, any comments?
Subject to neighbours.
Subject to neighbours. Shout if you don't agree. 24 Beach Avenue, single story conservatory.
Subject to neighbours.
Subject to neighbours. 7 Bantock Way, single story rear extension.
Subject to
neighbours. Okay. 136 Mead End, 2-story side and rear. No, subject to neighbours. Right, planning appeal, land at Fairgrounds site, Mill Lane. Councillor Fage.
So I've had a look at this. I think we should support central beds in what they're trying to do here. Whilst I appreciate the Harrises have a great history in this town, we have to consider the location and take this on sort of more planning terms than we should any personal relationships some of us may or may not have had in the past. I know we partner well with them as a council, but ultimately I think there's a few issues here which central beds are trying to raise. So I'd like to propose that we write back in support of what central beds are doing, raising a couple of things. So firstly, that the red line of the area on the documents online, severely impacts the Kingfisher Way footpath alongside the Ivel. So for those who haven't seen the documentation, it shows a yellow patch, which is what they're supposed to be inhabiting, and then a red patch of land which is owned, and some of the properties are starting to creep onto that, which I think is what central beds are concerned with. The second issue I think we need to raise is that the site actually impacts Franklin's recreation ground. When we think about the amount of the number of vehicles that are there going through there, where there are young children, etc. So I think that's an important point to raise, particularly given that Franklin's is probably the most historic park in Biggleswade and have been there far longer than any residents have when they settled in the 1970s. And thirdly, access to this site just broadly is not suitable for the kind of vehicles that are using it. This is a historic part of town. It's the only stone cobbles left in the town. Tarmac has gone down in order to accommodate vehicles which have 2 or 3 trailers, far too big to be using that small bridge as well. So this is the only opportunity we have to make these points. I think we need to make them because they are all relevant to the land which is being taken up and the things that land is being used for. So I'd like to propose that we support central beds, make those 3 points, please.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder for that?
Second.
Thank you. Councillor Bond.
I just want to make a point. I think it's incorrectly described as a planning appeal. This is actually a central beds enforcement action.
It's an appeal to the enforcement action.
Sorry?
Well, it's the appeal.
It's an appeal to the enforcement action, yes.
Yeah. Are there any more comments from anybody? So we have a proposal to support central beds on, I think, 3 grounds: the Kingfisher Way, the impact on the Kingfisher Way, the impact on Franklin's, and the access, the unsuitable access. So all those in favour, please, of that's unanimous again, except Councillor Bond, of course, because he can't vote on that. Yeah.
What we're looking at here, I've just asked Councillor Pullinger for the information. This is like any normal appeal that we've done in the past. The references are in the document regarding, and our staff has to go to the inspector rather than central beds.
Yes.
And we have a time scale on it. received by the 26th of January, and we can't afford to get it wrong.
No,
Okay, so that goes to the planning inspector. It doesn't actually go to central beds.
no, and I think on this one, we aren't allowed to do anything in person. It's written representations, isn't it? Yeah, so we've got a little while to get the response together. But we must get it in well before the 26th. Okay, I'm on to item 12 then, planning application outcomes. Any comments, please, colleagues? Councillor Knight.
I'd just like to express my disappointment, really. So on this sheet, there are 2 applications where central beds have felt it appropriate to grant approval, but this council strongly objected on. So the first of those is the 5G mast on Dunton Lane, where we registered a strong objection. And the second was Tate Drive, land north of, again, a strong objection. And I know that's now been granted, so I find that disappointing.
Yes, it does happen a bit too often, really. Okay, anything else? Right, items for information then, the bus strategy. Any comments, any questions? Okay, thank you, noted. Keach Hospice Care, they've given us some information on the grant we awarded them. Note again, yeah. Do we have a connection? Because I'm supposedly in practice session here. I don't know why I haven't got a connection. Have we got anybody who wishes to raise a question online? If there's anybody online who can hear me and wishes to raise a question, can you raise your electronic hand, please? Okay, so there's nobody online? No, okay, fine, in which case we move on. And so we now need to go into exempt session. So I will bring this part of the meeting to a close, colleagues.